You might. Oh, thank you. Yeah, welcome to our September Social Snapshots webinar. So I'm loving the alliteration with this. It's a team special of Social Snapshots. Today is all about Instagram. A lot of the webinars that we've done in previous months have been tackling all sorts of different topics, and this is the second one we've done that's really just focusing on one channel. After LinkedIn last month. So we're going to be talking about underrated Instagram features your charity should be using. If you've just arrived, please say hi in the chat and let us know where you work and how you use Instagram. I'm Kerry, I'm your host for the day, and I'm joined for the first time in our webinars by three of the team members at Social for Good. I'll tell you a little bit about who we are. So we are a social media agency. We're based in Brighton. We work with clients all over the country and some who are international. We work with purpose-driven brands who we call the good guys. That means any organisation that's doing good in the world for people or planet. Most of our clients are charities because you're definitely the good guys, but we also work with some educational institutions, healthcare organisations, and some B Corp businesses too. If you don't know much about us, we're basically on a mission to do two things. We want to help organisations that are doing good stuff in the world maximise their impact through strategic and ethical social media. And secondly, we're hoping that through that work, we can make the social media landscape a good place to be that has a positive impact on people's lives. Really pleased to see 42 of you so far joining us for this free lunchtime session. I know a few people can't make it, and we will send out the recording. These webinars are a chance for us to share what we've learned from working with hundreds of charities over the past few years. You will hear me mention the Social for Good Accelerator today. It's our training course for charities, and a lot of the content from today comes from that training program. But we're not here, this is not a pitch. Well, I will tell you more about it later, but it's not just a pitch. We're not here to kind of hold back and just give you a taster, but nothing really juicy. The aim of this webinar and all of our webinar sessions is that you leave with, it will be the spark of a new idea or a new tactic that you can actually go away and try, or a new idea to use, stuff that you can actually put into your day-to-day work to make more of an impact on social. And I've put some stars here by some of the team members, not just because they're my favourite, but because these are the people you'll be meeting today. So that's me, I'm Kerry. You're also going to meet shortly Nina and Ramin and Arantxa, who will introduce themselves shortly. But first of all, I will tell you a little bit about what we're going to cover in the next 30 minutes. So we'll do some introductions, then we're going to run a quick poll on which Instagram features you're using in your workplace. And then my three colleagues are going to talk through 6 underrated Instagram features. We're going to have a peek at the Social for Good Accelerator so you can find out a bit more about it in case this just kind of gives you a taste for more. And then Nina's going to share some Instagram recommendations. And if you have any questions at all whilst we're talking, please pop them in the chat. Nina and I will keep an eye on them, and then we'll save some time for Q&A and discussion at the end. So let's do an intro, first of all. Nina, do you want to say hi first?
Of course. Thanks, Kerry. Hi, everyone. Lovely to meet you. I'm Nina. I head our strategy team, and I've been very lucky to be with Social for Good for the last over 4 years now. In my role as head of strategy, I tend to bring a lot of decision makers in the same room and get really clear on why we're using social media. What are we trying to achieve? There's a lot of conversation around the purpose of social media. Are we trying to raise awareness, donations? Are we trying to get more volunteers, as well as build profiles of the people that we're trying to reach, content strategies, channel strategies? So in my role, I get to try a lot of the new features because I need to recommend them to our clients and their strategies. So that's why I'm very excited to share some of the things that I found work for our clients with you today. But I'm gonna hand over to Raman to introduce herself as well.
Thank you, Nina. Afternoon, everyone. As Nina said, my name is Ramin. I am a organic social media manager and also part of the strategy team working with Nina. And I've been at Social for Good for 3 years. The dates all blur around this point, I'll be honest. And yeah, as social media manager and strategist, we're using course, like lots of channels in our day-to-day basis. So yeah, always coming across new features as we do with Instagram is exciting to use and now also share with you in this webinar. I'm going to quickly pass over to Aranza.
Hi, everyone. Yes, so as Roman said, I'm Aranza. I also part of the team, part of the SFG team. I am an organic social media manager, which means I'm all about that content, love staying on top of what's new in all the different platforms that happen, including Instagram, which is why we're here today to share some of that insight with you. I'm a fairly new addition to the team, but it feels great to come from a very corporate background into working with the good guys and how social media can be used as a really positive tool. So we'll go through all of that. I'll hand over back to Carrie.
Cool, thank you, Aranza. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to launch a quick poll for everybody to find out a bit about the features that you use on Instagram. And I think this might help with some of the talking points or discussion at the end. So which of the following Instagram features have you used? Stories polls, feed polls, reposts, trial reels, alt text, and Instagram analytics. So I'll just give you a couple of minutes to do that. This is a different type of poll to the one we normally use because we're asking you whether you never use it, once or rarely use it, or regularly use it. So we're going to have a bit more data this time. Let's give it a little bit longer. Most people have filled it in. Okay, I think we're there. So if I end the poll and share the results with you all, so hopefully you can see that. So the light blue is if you've never used it, the dark blue is if you used it once or rarely, and the orange is for using it regularly. So Instagram Analytics has got the most regular use, followed by stories, stickers, reposts and alt text. Not many people using trial reels, although I'm pretty sure that's not rolled out for everybody yet anyway. And feed polls and story polls not used a great deal. Well, that's interesting. Thank you for sharing that with us. I will share the results of that poll in some content after today in case you wanted to have a look. Okay, so let's crack on. I'm going to just do a very brief intro before I hand over to the team. Why should charities care about Instagram? Well, it's the fourth most popular social media platform behind Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp. I don't really count WhatsApp as a social network, so it's pretty much up there as part of Meta. Over the years, though, it's evolved into so much more than it was originally, which was a photo sharing platform. And for the vast majority of charities that we've worked with, it's a key platform for those looking to connect with the general public or a more kind of broad audience. And you can create, as you will all know, stories, which are interactive photo or video posts visible for 24 hours, single images, of which there are a variety of dimensions now, carousels, one of our faves, which allow you to swipe up to 20 images and or videos in one post. As I'm saying all of this, I'm like, this could have changed yesterday and I probably wouldn't be aware. And finally, reels, which I'm sure you'll use, which are short form vertical video posts. So that's just a very quick refresher and a very quick intro. You'll be familiar with those main formats already, so we're not going to go on about those. But as I said, Instagram doesn't stand still, constantly evolving, rolling out new features, tweaking existing ones, sometimes removing them altogether just when you've probably got your head around how you're going to use them. And That can be exciting, like Ramin said, but it can also feel overwhelming. On one hand, you've got like a huge opportunity with these new features that Instagram wants you to use. And if people do use them, it often gives those early adopters of the feature a bit of an algorithmic boost so you can reach more people. But on the other hand, you don't just want to be using everything because it's new. So it can be hard to know which features actually matter for your audience and your cause, and which ones are just like a passing trend. So the ones that we've decided to focus on today are the ones that maybe aren't, or they kind of slip under the radar a bit. They're not your headline grabbing reels or carousels, but they're features that used strategically can help you reach more people, strengthen your community, or spark conversations. So I'm going to hand over now to Ramin, who is then going to hand over to Nina and then Aranza, and they're each going to talk through some of these features. And any questions that pop up, please put them in the chat. And then at the end, we'll come back and answer them all. So if I don't judge when you want me to change the slide, ladies, you'll have to Chris Whitty me and just say next slide, please. But I'm going to hand over to Aranza now. Ramin now.
We're doing great. No, thanks, Gary. So the first feature that I'll talk you guys through today is reposts. Now, really positive to see some of you have already started regularly using this new engagement metric, but for those of you who haven't tried it out yet or maybe aren't using it as regularly, hopefully this short little intro and talk through this metric will inspire you. So yeah, repost is a new engagement metric that's recently been introduced to Instagram, similar to reshare buttons on platforms like Facebook, X, LinkedIn that you may already be familiar with. Instagram's repost also allows users to reshare reels, carousels, photos to the people that follow them. A couple of good things to note is that anything a user has reposted will stay visible in a separate repost tab on their profile. And this tab will pop up automatically after a user makes their first repost. And another thing to be aware of is that only reposts from public profiles can be reshared. Kerry, if you could. Thank you. So why use them? So from a user perspective, repost allows someone to spread awareness of topics, people, organizations that you support and want to advocate for further. It also allows you as a user to reflect a wider range of things that you're interested in without necessarily having to create that content yourself. And it ultimately lets your community, the people that follow you, learn more about you and what you value. As an organization, reposts allow you to spotlight your audiences. A good example of this is at the British Museum here on this slide, where they've started reposting UGC to their profile. And it's a great public way to acknowledge and show appreciation for these audiences and ultimately help kind of strengthen their relationship with their audiences through social media. Another way that organizations have been using them is to reshare any messages, announcements, or updates that they've posted in the past that they want to get front of mind in audiences again. So Art Fund is a good example of how this is being done. They've reshared posts that highlight exhibitions just before they close, again, just to get it in front of mind of audiences. Thanks, Gary. So to get started with using reposts, we'd first recommend identifying how exactly reposts would support your social media activity. So for example, if you have any objectives or goals around increasing awareness or driving advocacy from audiences, reposts would be a really good valuable engagement metric to tap into and start tracking and kind of pursuing in your social media strategy. Secondly, start by actually just including copy, CTAs in your copy that encourage audiences to reshare your content. As it's a fairly new metric, it would be helpful to kind of start reminding audiences and encouraging them to get familiar with using that repost button. And finally, you should also consider how reposts would fit into your own comms management activity. So again, maybe take inspiration from those examples that I shared in the previous slide of you could be reposting UGC, like the British Museum, or you could be using it as a reminder dissemination type of strategy or feature like Art Fund were doing, just to remind audiences of key updates and messages. And ultimately, by using these reposts, and as audiences get more familiar with this new engagement metrics, you can hopefully expect to see any content that does get a high number of reposts will also gain a high number of impressions, as reposts will ultimately widen the reach and visibility of your content. And on a similar note, as reposts are a new metric you can track, you can expect to gain some diverse and valuable learnings with what audiences are engaging with and how they're engaging with your content, as you know, report back on any notable numbers. So that's reposts in a quick nutshell. And the next feature that I'm going to talk about is the interactive stories features, which are essentially the stickers that you'll hear most social media managers refer to on stories. And these include stickers like quiz, ask me anything, links, countdown, and polls, which Nina will dive into a little bit later. But using stickers on your Instagram stories are, well, why use them in the first place? Well, one way that you can use them is to encourage audiences to stop and engage rather than quickly tapping through a set of story slides that you may have shared. So an example of this is this quiz sticker used by Dogs for Good on the very left here. It encourages people to actually take in the message about them announcing their new puppies by acknowledging their names rather than just tapping through to the next slide. Another way to use stickers on your Instagram stories is it adds values and depth to an otherwise concise and very short format that Instagram stories can be. So an example here is this organization posting about an upcoming guided tour event. They've actually used the link sticker to directly provide access to anyone who wants to buy the tickets. But they've also included a countdown sticker in the same story to communicate the date of the event and how much time audiences have to buy the ticket. So you can mix and match with these stickers to elevate otherwise, static content, static detail that you may have added graphically to a visual instead. Stories, using sticker stories also allow you to get real valuable insight into what audiences really think and feel. So using the ask me anything or response box sticker is a really good one that Young Epilepsy have used to actually get a direct response and insight from what audiences want to say about a specific topic that they've asked about. And finally, just a general important thing to note is the stories bar, as I'm sure some of you are familiar with, is at the top of Instagram feeds and so has a great potential for visibility. If your audiences can expect engaging, interesting stories from you by using these interactive stickers to elevate your content, they'll keep coming back to you and you'll keep being a priority in their stories bar. So it's a really important one. Thanks, Kerry. So how to actually get started? I'd say the first thing is to get familiar with the full selection of interactive stickers if you're not already. Then dedicate time to actually sit down and brainstorm how and where these stickers can be integrated into your stories. As mentioned before, as a short form format, it's easy for stories to almost become an afterthought, potentially even sidelined in favor of in-feed posts by a lot of organizations. But when you treat stories with the same focus and dedication as in-feed posts, it's when you can really harness the full potential of the format and make sure it works cohesively with any in-feed content you're sharing as well. And then hopefully in the long run, by using these interactive stickers, you can hopefully see an increase in stories retention. So the amount of time audiences are spending on actually looking at your stories will increase. And you can get up-to-date insights again on what interests your audiences by looking at how and which stickers they interact with. So again, which polls are they responding to, which quizzes are they responding to, how they've directly responded to your Ask Me Anything questions. Those will be a really good way to gauge what topics of interest are of interest to your audiences. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Robin.
Thanks, Kerry.
Okay, and thanks for sharing the questions. We'll come back to these at the end. So, Nina, over to you.
Thanks, Kerry. So, what I wanted to continue kind of the conversation around is polls. This is something that Raman just briefly mentioned. And interestingly, I feel like polls has been around for years. Like we've been able to run polls on X, on LinkedIn, on Instagram stories for a long time. However, I had the gut feeling that they've been around for a long time, but I think we're not utilizing them. So I decided to run a poll on my LinkedIn and ask the social media managers that follow me on LinkedIn whether how often do they use polls in their content strategy of the charities and nonprofits that they manage. And interestingly, 47% of the people that responded to the poll said they either rarely or never use polls in their content strategy, which means that there's a huge missed opportunity there, and my gut feel was right. So I'm very curious, how about you? Like, I'm gonna have a look at the poll later on and see whether we are using them actively, rarely, or never. But let's have a look of why we should be using them essentially. Over the next slide. Yeah. So the polls, just quick overview. It's essentially you ask a question and then you have a couple of different points of what the answer could be. And if we continue on to the next slide, they live in two different places on Instagram. So they used to be just in stories for a long time, but then Instagram realized that, oh, people want to engage with polls when you give them the opportunity to do so. Let's launch those in the carousels as well, in reels, in photos, and they work in exactly the same way as on stories. They're live for 24 hours. So you have 24 hours from the time of posting of, let's say, a carousel on your charity account, or a reel or a photo, and you can ask the same questions you'd ask on stories in your in-feed content. On to the next slide. And why all of this is important, because polls are really quick win in terms of engagement. They're very easy to answer because it's a very low effort ask. We're not asking people to leave comments, to ask us questions. We're literally just asking them to tap a button somewhere where they're already tapping, whether that's their stories or their carousels. And what this signals to Instagram is the more you engage with certain type of content, the more they're going to see your content. This signals to the algorithm that you are interested in this account. So let's say you engage in stories, they're going to show you more of the in-feed content of this person. So the more people answering your polls, the more they're going to see your content. So that's why you want to have polls and actively use them. In terms of how you can use polls, I wanted to share a couple of different examples of how we've been using them for our clients. One way to use polls is you can increase awareness about a certain topic, and you can make it quite fun and playful. So you can do trivia style questions, like you can ask things like, when do you think our charity was founded? How long have we existed for? How many team members do you think we have? Or how many people do you think we've supported this year? Or what's our fundraising goal for the year? How much money do you think we fundraised last year? You can ask questions that perhaps people can find in your blogs, in your reports. You can repurpose very long form content, like let's say a blog, and repurpose that into a poll so you can kind of spark people's curiosity about reading the full blog. You can do this or that type of polls. Maybe you can even involve people in the creation of long form content. Let's say you have end of year report coming up, and maybe you ask them which title are they more likely to read, like what sounds more interesting to them, or which photo should you use as the cover photo. One more thing that we found to really work for our clients is 2 truths, 1 lie. And again, you can use information from your blogs, different stories that you're sharing, something where they can go and find the information. But again, you spark their curiosity with sharing 2 truths and 1 lie. So having these variations of polls make it a bit more interesting for people to engage with, and it can help you to gather feedback about how you run the charity, what decisions you're making, as well as raise awareness about different topics that you're passionate about. And when it comes to how exactly to do the polls, you never want to use more than 10 words in your polls, because this makes it very wordy. And it's always good to add some context before your poll. So let's say you have first story, you give a bit of context of the topic that you're about to run a poll on, then you have a slide just with the poll, and then another story slide that it's maybe talking about the answer of the poll, giving a bit more context on why did you run the poll, what's the learning, where they can find more information, is there a longer blog to read, news, report, etc. And importantly, please ask questions that you yourself would answer to. So it needs to be interesting. It needs to feel like your audience is receiving some kind of value. It's piquing their curiosity. It's making them learn something. It's making them feel some kind of emotion. On to the next slide. And here are some examples that we've come across on social media of how different charities run their polls. So here we have Young Epilepsy, and they were trying to popularize their Epilepsy and Me sessions, which is type of service that they offer to young people. And they asked, have you heard about our Epilepsy and Me sessions? Some people said, yes, I have. However, the majority of people said, no, tell me more, please. So what does this signal to the charity is that there is 64% of people who wants to learn more about the service. So let's say you're doing something like this for your charity. You can then follow up with these people who said they want to learn more, send them a DM and start a conversation to provide this resource that you're promoting. Then another example, it's Dogs for Good. And they had a fundraising gala event. And they asked the simple question, are you joining the celebration tonight? 21% said, can't wait, all dressed up. 79% said, with you in heart and spirit, so they can't make it. But again, super easy engagement. This 79%, although they won't be there, they're supporters, they've clicked, so they're gonna see more content in the future. Really easy to do, and it brings good impact for the charity. Okay, so one more feature that I wanted to share about was Instagram Analytics. And it was great to see that the majority of you are using Instagram Analytics regularly. Something that is brand new, it's been very recently released, it's still piping hot, it's not even available for everyone. So it's coming. If you still can't see it, it's coming. But there is two different features that you're going to be able to see on the backside of your Reels insights. So the first one is retention chart. The retention chart essentially shows you what percent of viewers are watching your Reel for what duration. You can see, let's say your Reel is 40 seconds. You can see at the 3 seconds, you've had 90% of people. At 5 seconds, you had 80%. You can see how they gradually reduce, like where do you lose people, basically for the duration of your Reel. And then it can really help you to analyze why people are dropping. And then we have the skip rate, which again, it's super interesting because it shows you what percentage of people skip your Reel within the first few seconds of watching it. If we continue on to the next slide, the way you can find those is, let's say you have a Reel, you go into the view insights of the Reel, and then you can see the retention chart and the skip rate. As I said, they're very slowly launching this onto people's insights. So you may have it, you may not, but it's coming if you don't have it. And on to the next slide. In terms of why it's important to use this once it's available, because it will help you to analyze, is the problem with my Reel within the hook? Is it the first 3 seconds that's making people drop? Therefore, probably my content is okay, but the hook is not strong enough. The first 3 seconds haven't captured people's attention. Or I have captured their attention, but they're dropping off after 10 seconds. So it's not interesting enough for them to watch the full story. Maybe I'm missing a story arc. I need to work on my content. Okay. Over to Aranta now for trial Reels.
Thanks, Nina.
Fab. Okay, so yeah, I'm just going to talk you through trial Reels. I saw from the poll that that's probably one of the features that the majority of people aren't using yet, and that might have to do with the fact that it's still being rolled out, similar to what Nina was talking about just now with analytics. There will be a little bit of crossover in terms of making the most out of this feature in combination with the kind of insights that Nina was just talking about. So first of all, what are trial Reels? In the simplest way possible, they are Reels that you can post to your Instagram without sharing them directly to your existing follower base. It's a feature that really is designed to allow you to test the content, firstly as a whole, so what it is, what the content piece is about, but also in its individual parts, things like hook, like CTA, like visual styling, to see where maybe you could make changes to become more effective with what you're sharing to your audience. They will, if you have seen them already, you'll know this, but if you haven't, they will appear separately to your main feed in your Instagram profile. So they will not be visible to anybody when they visit your profile, and they're for you uniquely to see, as will be some of the analytics that come with them. So how do you make one? Essentially, it is part of the same process of making a reel. When you have your content and you're ready to post a reel, you'll be able to toggle, as you can see on the slide there in the red box, the trial reel toggle. That means that it'll be shared not to your audience, but to other people. And after a window of 48 to 72 hours, Instagram will collect analytics on the exact same points that Nina was just talking about, on the performance of that trial reel for you to review. So you can choose to have Instagram decide as well if you want your trial reel to be shared, if it gets a certain amount of views, what Instagram qualifies as a good amount of views. But I'm going to tell you a little bit of why I don't think that's the best choice to make initially without a bit more strategy to your trial reels. Why would it be relevant for you to use them? Essentially, it's a free opportunity for experimentation for you. It's doing market research in the platform itself without leaving Instagram and testing what drives actions like clicks, if that's what you're looking for, but maybe what drives clicks to donations specifically without having to change your main content in order to understand what things would get your audience to those engagements. And it can help you target new audiences altogether, which might be something that you're thinking about. Are we targeting the right age group? Are we targeting the right gender? Are we using the right trends that are speaking to the audience that we have currently? So that's why it's really valuable. Now into the next slide. Thanks, Karen. So how do you start? Where would you start? I would say a good recommendation for starting to use trial reels is to test specific parts of your content rather than radically changing everything that you're doing. That's probably going to be a lot easier on you or on your team, and just easier to deal with the analytics that you're going to get for those things as well. So what does that mean? Things like your hook. If people are dropping off immediately, that might be the thing that you need to test a couple of variations from. It might be your CTA. It might be things like the time that you're posting a reel on. Maybe the people that you're trying to speak to are not actually the people that are interested in engaging with your content. It might be your use of trending audios. So those individual features are a really good, valuable thing for you to use trial reels for, to then kind of slowly incorporate into the content that you're creating. In terms of client stories, obviously this is a very new feature, but we do have one brand with a number of accounts that is using trial reels in a kind of trialing month structure. And what they're doing is essentially separating their time in testing, analytics, and then implementation. And that would really be the best way of going about using that feature. They're going to be doing all the same things that I'm talking about. Firstly, hooks, their visual style, the actual topic of the content that they're creating, the length of the videos that they're sharing, and even captions and CTAs and the kind of keywords that they're using in those captions. Another thing that you might choose to use trial reels for is user-generated content, or UCG. Because that might be something that you're testing, but you're unsure whether it's really your brand, who you're going to incorporate. Trial reels are perfect for that. So you can collect insights, as I said, from 48 to 72 hours, but really the best use of this is to just wait, collect it all together, look at it as a full picture, and then make decisions based on that for your content moving forward. Yeah, so we can move into the next section. So alt text. This, I think, as the poll said, a lot of you are more familiar with. It's actually really simple. Alt text is essentially just a written description of what your post contains that helps visually impaired people and users of the platform understand what the images that you're sharing are. Instagram also uses it for discoverability, and this is really key to understand about alt text. So it's essentially an SEO feature that is there at your disposal. Why would you be interested in using alt text? Firstly, because it's about accessibility. If you're an accessibility first focused organization or individual, this means that your content is reaching more people who will have access to it, who will therefore have access to your work, to your organization, to all the good things that you are doing. It also, because it's an SEO feature, helps improve your discoverability within the Instagram algorithm. So the words themselves that you're going to choose in your alt text function as keywords as they would within your captions, maybe as they would have maybe a couple months ago or years ago in hashtags, which are becoming less and less helpful for that. So alt text can be sort of a support feature in discoverability. How would you go about adding it? Oh, sorry, we're still in the first one. How would you go about adding it? There's two ways. Essentially, when you're preparing a post, in your image editing, you can access advanced settings. If you don't see them, keep scrolling. It's literally the very last thing that you will see in your editing settings. It's advanced settings. You can add alt text there. If you do forget, don't worry, because there is an edit feature to all your posts on Instagram, and it literally has, as you see in a box, edit alt text. So you can do it from there. Many scheduling tools also have the ability to help you do it in platform things like Hootsuite, like Buffer, or like Sprout, depending on what it is that you're using. So now into the new slide. In terms of how you would go about starting, I would say aim for 1 to 2 sentences that are really clear and just focused on the essential information on the image. Because when you use AI, if you do go that route, you might find that it likes to embellish the alt text that it provides you with. So it'll say things like person standing in front of a garden in a beautiful sunny day where everybody seems happy. Maybe the second part of that description isn't as important as the first. That's for you to choose. Obviously, like all AI generated content, just make a choice about what you're actually sharing. And check the alt text for keywords. So for that discoverability, for that SEO within the algorithm, make sure that you're using words that are relevant to the actual piece of content, to your goals for the content itself. The results that you might get from using alt text initially, because of what we've discussed, is improved accessibility, of course. It means that more people are going to be able to see your content. You might actually be speaking to a huge audience group that requires the use of alt text, and you might otherwise leave them to the side without using this feature. It's also a bit of a boost to your organic search, to your organic reach, sorry. It's not a massive SEO tool, but it's definitely something that we always recommend clients include when they're creating their content. And it enforces your storytelling because it clarifies the message that you're sending and it shows your values and your mission as an organization. So that's what alt text can offer you.
Thank you, Aranza. I'm a bit conscious of time, but I'm going to do a really quick bit of info about the accelerator and then hand over to Nina to talk about some recommendations for you. And then we will do a Q&A. We might overrun by a few minutes, but stay with us if you can. So the Social for Good Accelerator, if you're not familiar with it, it is an 8-week social media training program specifically for charities. There wasn't, or most social media training courses that we saw were very short, they're very generic. So just over a year ago, we co-created this course with social media managers at charities like yourself, addressing the topics that you told us you wanted support with, the challenges that you're facing. And we have 60 spots available over 5 cohorts in 2026. And I'll share more information with it in the follow-up email. The charities, I had a look through the feedback that we had recently, so I could share with you some of the impact that charities who've been on it said they gained. We saw feedback like clear, actionable strategy tailored for charities, time-saving tools, reduced day-to-day stress, confident in choosing the right content formats, stronger, more consistent community engagement, which is something we're really passionate about. So it's lovely to see that coming through. And this is quite a big one, I think, ability to measure, improve impact to funders and leadership. Getting that buy-in from senior leaders to keep investing in social is really important. So no pressure, like I said, just a quick pitch. If you want to learn more, everything that we all know collectively about social is in the accelerator. But I'll send you more info, but I'm going to hand back over to Nina to give you some recommendations, and then we'll answer some of the questions that have popped up in the chat.
Amazing. So super quick, if you don't follow Adam Mosseri on Instagram, his tagline is just Mosseri. He's the head of Instagram, and I think it's every Friday he does Ask Me Anything question box, where essentially he answers the public's questions, and he talks a lot about the algorithm, new features you should be testing, how you should be using. So follow Adam Mosseri. Then another one for you would be to subscribe to really useful newsletters. There's so many out there. I'd recommend you to. The first one is by Pretty Little Marketer. She shares weekly roundups of new features, as well as what's happening on social, what's hot on social right now. And then, of course, our own newsletter. It's called Spark Fuel Go, and it's super value packed. And we share it once a month, and it has an idea for you to explore, a framework to use, and tools that can help you implement that idea quickly. And lastly, if there's a new feature, try and use it, because as Kerry said at the beginning, usually whatever channel this feature is on, they're going to give you algorithmic boost because they want more people to use it. Now, let's crack on with some questions. I've noted down a couple of questions that we can share across the team. The first one was by Amy King. And Amy said, we have tried the comment box sticker on stories multiple times, and our audience does not want to comment. How can we encourage more people to comment and share their thoughts? Raman or Aranta? Any thoughts?
Yeah, happy to take it because I saw that question pop up as well. I'd say, Amy, depending on if it's just question response, like response boxes that you've tried, and maybe you haven't tested seeing any engagement with the other stickers, like again, quiz, or as Nina kind of introduced a bit more, polls, it could be that writing a specific question or typing in a response is that extra effort for a social media user, which they may not want to take, but you could still get valuable insights if you repurpose what you're asking in your question boxes into a poll or a quiz where they can, just tap a simple button and you will still get insights into what your audience may want to see, but just with a slightly less lower effort engagement.
I would just add to that very briefly that sometimes when we work with our clients and we suggest a certain feature that might work, such as this, they try it and they don't get a huge response straight away, but that's because their audience aren't used to that type of engagement. They haven't had that from them before. So it does, like Ramin said, just takes a bit of experimentation to start building up more kind of two-way interaction with the audience.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so another question was by Joe Morrison, and it was, what does a good retention rate look like on, I think that was for Instagram Reels. And yeah, I'm open for Raman and Aranta if you want to jump in. I feel like my gut feel is around 50%. It's probably good. That's probably what I would be recommending. But what do you think, guys?
I would say similar. I think especially you're looking at that kind of initial hook drop off not happening. Like if you're able to retain people past the first 3.5 seconds, then that means you're starting really well and you can kind of focus on the content beyond that. But yeah, I would be kind of aligned with Nina on the 50% as well.
And Aranta, follow-up question for you was, who would actually see a trial reel? This was from Rifat Yusuf. So Rifat asked, why would your followers click on a trial reel rather than a regular one? Might users wonder why we're posting a trial reel?
Okay, so I think probably maybe I might have confused you, Rifat. Apologies for that. So actually, a trial reel, when it gets shared, it does not reach your existing followers at all. So they have no way of seeing either on your profile or on their feeds that you have posted a trial reel. I totally get why it would be confusing for them to be like, why does this say trial reel? Why is it not just a normal piece of content? But that happily doesn't happen. What Instagram does it's kind of like hitting reset on your algorithm. When you first joined it and you started sharing content without any followers, the algorithm shared it with people that it thinks will be interested in it, either because of their searches or because of the content that they're already consuming. And it's sort of hitting restart to go back to that starter mode to try to find a new audience that might be interested with your trial reel. Does that hopefully answer your question? If not, put it in the box and I'll add a little more detail.
There was one more question for you, Aranta, and it was on alt text. If an image is decorative rather than functional or purposeful, do you still use alt text?
Yeah, great question. So obviously decorative might mean a couple of different things. So I don't know if you're using, for example, like promotional graphics and things like that, or maybe there's no people and it's just text. I would say it's always better to add alt text regardless of what the visual is, because the purpose of it beyond the SEO and discoverability is the fact that somebody can't see the visual at all, and their accessibility apps, whatever technology it is that they're using, either on their phones or on their computer, is going to read out to them what the visual is. So regardless of what the visual it is that you're sharing, decorative, people, an actual image, or I don't know what else you could share, a reel, I would always add the alt text.
Nice. I was just reading quite a long question from Bethan, and I'm not sure who it's for. So I'll read the question out, and whichever one of you wants to answer, go ahead. When you collaborate on a post with somebody else being the original poster, the analytics for this aren't included in your stats, which is frustrating when collaborations often result in the greatest reach or engagement. Has anyone found a workaround for this other than trying to get the info from the original poster, which is obviously challenging? Have we found a workaround for that?
I don't think there's a workaround. I guess it would be more of a, if it's a piece of content that you know you want to gain insights from, maybe just at the get-go, just say, can we be the original poster so you have access to those insights?
Arantxa, were you speaking then, but on mute?
No, sorry, I was reading the question in my mind
Oh,
again.
sorry. I thought we might have missed something. Yeah, I've not heard of a workaround for that, and I guess that's Instagram being really careful with individual data for that they're not making public. If I think that's something we'll look into, Bethan, and if it does come up, we'll include it in some of our messaging so that you can learn.
I'm
Any
I'm kind of confused with this one because I thought that you get the combined metrics on the insides. That was what I knew. So I'm wondering, yeah, where did this come, Bethan, with the different insights? Because I always thought that it was combined. So I just had a quick Google as well, and according to Google, it also says that it's combined insights.
I mean, Bethan, feel free to take yourself off mute if you want to share your experience on it. But Nina thinks it's combined stats.
But it may be new information to us if there is a split. Yeah, I'd love to dive deeper into this. Good question. I'd love to get to the bottom of it.
Okay. Well, if any more questions pop up on Instagram, feel free to drop us an email or message us on one of our various social platforms. Sorry for keeping you a little bit later than planned. We just packed too much Instagram stuff into this special session, but thank you so much for joining us. We will, oh no, don't worry, Bethan. We will send a copy of the recording in case you wanted to reference it at all, and some information about the accelerator and future events in an email later today or tomorrow. But have a lovely rest of your Monday, and thanks for joining us. Bye.